Okay, yeah, so we're recording. So yeah, welcome to Go-To Training for week 3 and 4. What I'm going to do basically is just kind of cover assignments 3 and 4, and then of course, if you have any questions about the assignments, or if you have any general questions just about about the profession or anything pertaining to the class, I'm glad to answer those as well. Um, so what you're looking at right now, this is just a template that you're going to fill out for the assignment for week 3. There's a separate document that has the directions in it, so I'll go over those um, with you here in a second. But as you can see, just looking at it, it's pretty simple looking, pretty straightforward looking. So and it is. It should be. It's not necessarily that it'll be difficult or particularly time consuming for you, but there should be an emphasis on a few things. What you're going to be doing is establishing goals, and I'll go over the details here in a second. But really, what I'm looking for primarily out of this assignment is that you do things that are specific to the artist that you pick to work with this month. So, at this point, you've analyzed their strengths, you've analyzed their weaknesses. You kind of know what niche, what genre, where they fit in the market, hopefully based on that research. So I want you to take that information and make decisions here that are very specific, as opposed to just saying, everyone's always just record an album, go on a tour or whatever. So be specific about what you're wanting to do and go a little bit past that. So instead of just saying that you want to go on a tour, tell me specific places that you feel like it would make sense for you to go. That you don't have to list every city, but maybe say that you feel like your market is primarily on the East Coast. You need to expand that direction, so you're going to go on an East Coast tour, or better yet, find a tour that exists already and say you're going to target trying to land an opening spot on that particular tour. Maybe there's a festival that you feel has an overlap in target market, and so you're going to try to contact their booking, or see if you can land yourself a booking agent to help expand that way. So what I'm looking for is uh, things that aren't particularly vague, and that really bank off of where you see your artists needing to go, and what you've identified as their strengths, and what their who their target audience is, and what their habits are. So kind of use those things to dictate your decision making. So let me close this, and we'll take a look at the actual instructions for the assignment here, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. You can use in your books, chapter 6 talks about planning and setting goals, and strategies and tactics. So that's kind of what we're pulling from here. So essentially, what you're going to do, you're going to identify 5 different major goals that you would like to achieve for your artist in the next 3 years, and your end result here should be that these things lead to some sort of income. There's a difference between doing artist management as a hobby and doing it as a career. And this one of the goals of this course is to get you to a point where you can, at least in theory, turn this into a career. Whether or not you actually execute on some of these things, that's more up to you. But I want to at least give you the ideas of the different routes that you should be able or should be looking into to start getting some money coming in. Now, granted, it does typically take about 3 to 5 years before that's actually the case, especially if you're building an artist from the ground up yourself. But hopefully you can get it there, and setting those goals is a good first step, because it gives you a point of reference um, to reach for. Setting major goals also allows you to consider the small stepping stones that will lead to that major goal. So, I mean, you could break it down metaphorically speaking. You could say, my goal is to exit out the front door of my house. But you're not just going to leap to the front door of your house. You've got to take those individual steps. I got to get up off the couch. I got to, walk through the living room, and I got to open the door, and I have to, all those little in between steps. So a lot of times, if you have that larger goal in sight, it allows you to better identify what the smaller goals are that'll get you there. So that's kind of what I'm hoping you'll get from some of this. So there are some examples I give here. So some goals can include recording an album, booking a tour, developing a website, creating merchandise, licensing music, all different sources of income, and try to think outside the realm of only recording an album. A lot of people focus so much on music sales as their primary source of income. And you got to know from looking at the industry now that sales of music is not going to be your major source of income. So you got to really branch out and think about brands that make sense for you to partner with. Co-branding opportunities, endorsement opportunities. Think about the shows that your target audience watches. Specific shows, specific movies that they like, specific video games that they play, those kinds of things, so that you can start trying to find ways to get your music licensed to those into those projects. That way, you get royalty money and you get licensing money as well. So there's a reason that I have you look into the target market information so specifically, and it's because those things are going to kind of shape your marketing decisions as you go forward, and they're going to shape the kinds of the goals that you set for yourself. So keep it realistic. You're probably not going to be opening for Beyonce, but keep it within the realm of where you think you can realistically function. And again, be specific. So I do provide some examples here. So one example that's provided, I want to perform an East Coast tour outside of my artist's home state to generate new fans and to promote an album. So hopefully you've got a buzz going in your home state and you want to kind of grow off of that. For these goals, I want you to list them in chronological order. So the first one, the completion date of your first goal would be, not necessarily the completion date, sorry, but your set of dates, beginning and completion, would occur before your second goal, your third goal, and so on. So here you've got, so for example, your East Coast tour shouldn't take 2 years. The actual tour would probably take about 4 to 5 weeks to book with venues and solidify the date. So you'll probably want to start that about 3 to 4 months before the tour starts. Then you want to take about a month for the tour itself. So the beginning date for the goal is going to be when you actually started booking, and the end date will be the last day of the tour. So we're looking at, it might be realistically a 5 or 6 month long process. So don't just put, you're going to book a tour and it's going to happen in April, and then your beginning date is April and your end date is April. You think about the entire process here. So the next part of the goal is going to be to identify the company or the venue or whoever that's going to help you facilitate this goal and provide contact information for them. So if one of your goals is a tour, then you can just use one example of a venue on the tour. That'll be fine. Just please choose a venue outside of your local market and one that you would really want to realistically visit on tour. So take a look at their capacities, look at their website, and see if this is a place that has the kind of acts that your act fits in with, that draws the kind of audience that you would want to play to, and hopefully be able to, win some of them over. So the next time you come to town, they'll come back to your shows. Be realistic with your capacity as well. I will be taking a look at those things. So the example provided here, this is actually a venue in Orlando where I'm located. So this is Back Booth. It's got the address, it's got the phone number, and then the website for it. There's some talk in the book about gatekeepers, so it might be helpful to you to take a look at that. But essentially, gatekeepers are people that control power and influence, and can essentially open doors to help you reach your goals. So I want you to look into what those are. It could be a booking agent, it could be a venue owner, it could be a producer, it could be a record executive or something like that. It could also be a personal assistant or a secretary or someone who's constantly in the ear of these people that you're hoping to work with, that you think can control these levels of access. So don't disregard the the people that are kind of lower on the food chain, because a lot of times they control that access just as much as the people above them. This really, the goal here is to get a handle on who can specifically help you, and for you to research how to get in touch with them. What I'm hoping that you get from this is kind of, there's you think about all the things that you want to accomplish in your artist career and what you want to do for them. And you think about these big, vague agencies and companies and venues and stuff, and they're kind of faceless machines almost. But if you actually do the research and find the name of the person, the email address of the person that you would contact to hopefully get a ball rolling somewhere, and it might not work the first time. It might not work the 10th time. But eventually, if you keep banging on those doors, one of them will open for you. And the first step in getting one of those doors to open is to figure out exactly which, who controls access to that door. So kind of shake the vagueness off of the machine, and look at these specific people and realize that these are, they're people just like you and me. One of these guys could hop in your car and go to Taco Bell with you. These are, they're just regular people. All you got to do is figure out how to get in touch with them, and what they're looking for, what their agendas are, and those kinds of things. So and where your artist fits in with those agendas. So do that research, find out who exactly does the booking at these places, or who controls, who the producers are that make sense for your artist to work with, and stuff like that. Provide their contact information here. Find a way to get in touch with them. And then the last bit that you'll be providing is the strategies and tactics, which is basically, this is what it's going to take from you as a manager in order for these tasks to get completed. So this is not where you explain why this is a goal of yours, or why the artist is pursuing this goal. This is where you say, this is what I as a manager need to accomplish in order for this process to really begin. So for the tour example, you would need to actually plot out specific cities along the East Coast that have the kind of markets that you're hoping to play for, that appreciate the kind of music. You would need to actually contact the venues for possible dates that fit in with your timeline. Excuse me. Sorry. Let me get a drink of water real quick. Okay. And so the actual legwork that you would need to get going from your end to accomplish these goals is what I'm looking for here. So after everything is said and done, I provided a full example for you here at the bottom. Kind of a short example. I'm hoping to get a little bit more information from you guys, but it was hard to make a vague example here, whereas I'm looking for specifics from you guys. But yeah, so you got perform an East Coast tour outside of your local state to generate new fans, promote an album. You're going to start booking around January 2013. The tour will probably take place in June, so the end date will be June 2013. Here's an example of the type of venue that we'd like to play at. Back booth. Got their website and everything there. The guy who controls booking at Back booth is Chris Goizueta, and this is his contact information. And then it's got your strategies and tactics on how to get this thing off the ground. So that's basically it. You just need to do that 5 times for 5 different goals. And like I said before, it's ideal that they're not all along the lines of just recording an album, or all just along the lines of a tour. I want you to really think about diversifying. The more streams of income that you have going on, the better off you're going to be, because if one of those things falls through, it doesn't work out the way you hoped for, you've still got these other sources of revenue coming in, other avenues for your artist to pursue. So, think about all those things: licensing, touring, songwriting, all the different ways that you can make money. So that's basically it for assignment 3. Kind of a it's less formal paper and more just kind of listing it all out. But again, you should know from what I was saying there what I'm looking for, and specifics are kind of the most important thing. All right, so I'm going to move on to assignment 4 now, and what I'll do is, if you have any questions at the end of this, you're welcome to ask them. I'll just go through everything at once, and then I'll just kind of open it up for questions at that point.
All right, sounds good.
Cool. All right, so assignment 4. Excuse my you can't see it, my Calvin and Hobbes background here. And okay, so assignment 4 is kind of a reflection point for you guys, and it's also a bit of the actual turning this from a hobby into a business, and how to actually technically set that up and everything. So there's some bits in the book that break down some of this, and you should have covered a lot of this in other classes. But what I'm looking for here is kind of what is specific to this particular profession in this particular situation. So first of all, how would you choose to structure the business, and why would you choose that? And the why is just as important as the what here. So if you're working with a band that isn't quite ready to take the leap to legalize everything and go 110% into this, then maybe you want to go with the partnership because it's a little bit less official than than an LLC. So maybe you start off with the partnership and kind of see how it works. The thing to remember there is that there's, your social security number is attached to it, or both partners or multiple partners or whatever. So there is liability that you're assuming there. So if there ever is a lawsuit or whatever, again, your social security number is attached to this. So that it kind of opens up the door for a bit more liability. Same with the sole proprietorship. If you're maybe working with a solo artist and they decide to be a sole proprietor, their social security number is attached to it. So there's more liability there. LLC does give you a little bit more protection. So you have the same kind of protection as a corporation, just on a smaller scale that you're operating or whatever. The difference here with an LLC is that, it's one of those things where it's an easy hat to put on. It's a hard hat to put off or to take off. So, you need to be sure that this is the route that you want to go, that you've got people that are serious about, working together for an extended period of time and want to turn this into a career before you just jump into an LLC, because it's not an easy thing to undo if it comes to that point, I guess. So kind of take a look at the options here and see what makes the most sense for your particular situation. Number 2, what members of the support team do you plan to hire? So explain when they'll be hired and how much they'll be paid. What I'm looking for here basically is kind of an objective analysis of where you think you're at in your career and in your artist career. Obviously, if you're just kind of starting off and building things up, it might make more sense for you to not hire a ton of team members and for you as a manager to actually play the roles of booking agent and publicist and all those different things. That might make the most financial sense for you, and then hopefully in the next couple of years you can expand that team as your success grows. But just look at what you really need and what you can really afford, and bring those in. When you say how much they're going to be paid, I do ask that you provide some kind of source regarding where you got that money. Don't just pull numbers out of thin air, which I'm kind of surprised how often people think that that's okay. They're just like, I'm gonna pay my publicist $20,000, and I have no idea where they got that number or why they think that's a good number or if it makes sense for their situation or anything. So please show where you're pulling those numbers from so that I can tell that you've looked at it realistically. But yeah, just see, maybe your artist is good at booking themselves. Maybe they can put together decent tours on their own and they've got an established network of contacts. So you don't need to hire a booking agent. In that case, maybe you want to focus more on online publicity and growing your social media following or something like that. So again, that objective analysis that you did earlier in the month should hopefully come into play in your decision making here. The next thing will be identify costs other than salary that will be budgeted for use by each member of the support team. So now that you've identified who you want to add to your team, what do they need in order to function? Are these people that are going to need to travel? If they are going to travel, what kind of traveling is okay? Are you going to be paying for their hotel rooms? Are you going to be paying for their for a van or their plane tickets? Or how much money are you okay there? Or are you okay spending? And it's not necessarily just travel. It could be if you're paying for materials, or if you've got a big enough team to where you need to get an office and pay those overhead costs and everything. That's going to depend on your personal situation, where your artist is at in their career in terms of success and how much money they're bringing in. Number 4 is what insurance policies need to be do you need to have as a company, based on what kind of work the artist is doing. So if they're touring a lot, then you might want to think about, you got to insure the equipment, you got to insure the vehicle, you got to insure your artist probably, or hopefully the artist has some kind of health insurance. But your livelihood as a manager depends on your artist being okay. So if they're at a reputable point in their career where they're bringing in some money and your income depends on them, do you need to take out life insurance on them in case something happens to them while they're on the road or whatever? Knock on wood, hopefully that doesn't happen, but you do kind of have to think along those lines. But yeah, health insurance, vehicle insurance, equipment insurance, anything along those lines that you feel is relevant based on the strengths of your artist and where they're at in their career. Number five, some organizations that might be beneficial for your artist to be a member of. This is really about protecting your work and furthering the artist's work and network as well. Also, please include any yearly membership dues associated with each organization. So try to name a few here, but do they need to register with a PRO like BMI, ASCAP, CSAC, one of those places? Do they need, or maybe your artist is a songwriter and you need to find some songwriting organizations for them to join and be a part of, to help kind of increase maybe collaborations and learn more about their craft, or submit for contests and things along those lines. um, Recording organizations, as well, if they're a producer as well as an artist, that might be a good route to look at. You're also welcome to include any nonprofit affiliations or anything along those lines that you think it would be beneficial for your artist to kind of be aligned with based on their image. Um, Number six is where we start to get a little bit more personal here. But this is kind of based on all the analysis that you've done throughout the month and what you've determined as their strengths and weaknesses. Most artists have a set number of strengths, and most artists do have a weakness or two, at least one or two. And it was really important that you identified those objectively early on, so that you can say, this is where, in order for my artist to be a total package, this is what I need to focus on making happen. This is where I need to pour my efforts into, is getting them, to 100%, turn one of these weaknesses into a strength, so that they can have a more successful career. So, if they're great recorded, but they've got a weak live show, or maybe they can't sing well live or something like that, then maybe your main area of focus is going to be getting that live show, kind of shaped up and make that a drawing point for your artist as well, a strength the same way that their recording career is. Number seven kind of goes along those lines. So does your artist need to develop any new skills in order to achieve success? But not just, don't just identify them. Here I want you to say, tell me how you plan to achieve those things. So how are they going to, if they need to become a better live singer, how are you going to get them there? Are you going to get them a vocal coach? You're going to have them take singing lessons? Do they just need more practice in front of audiences? Maybe they're just not comfortable. They can sing fine, but they get nervous or something like that. So, tell me what it is that you plan to do in order for them to kind of develop those skills and again, turn those weaknesses into strengths. Number eight is, reads like a gimme, but it's what have you learned from the 4 assignments in this course? I'm not looking for you to get like to suck up or anything here, but I kind of want to know what things you thought or knew, or thought that you knew about this industry before you came into the class, and maybe what surprised you, or what, maybe structurally, in terms of, from a business perspective, what you may have picked up on that you didn't realize was important to know, or what areas of analysis, in terms of evaluating talent and structuring a career based on that talent, those kinds of things, like what you've identified that maybe you hadn't paid attention to before. That's one of those things that kind of helps me shape future curriculum, and see exactly what you guys know coming in, and what I can focus on, kind of bettering as you come out of the class. So, just be honest there. That's totally cool. But keep in mind, you need to provide a full paragraph for each of these questions. So 4 sentences, and keep an eye on your spelling and everything. Grammar, of course, is a focus with me. So that's basically it. Shouldn't be too hard. There is a little bit of research involved, and again, anytime you provide numbers and stuff like that, I am looking for sources, so provide those in APA format. And if you have any questions, you're welcome to email me, hit me up on AIM, whatever it is you want to do. So that's everything for the assignments, and yeah, now I can open it up for questions. John, did you have, since you're you're our only guest today, did you have anything you wanted to ask about?
Well, I think with the assignments, it's pretty self-explanatory.
Mm-hmm.
I know with the last question for the assignment 4, I could probably deliver a thesis alone on that question alone. But I do have a question in general about the industry. I know navigating the inner workings of today's managerial arena is demanding and extremely complex.
Hmm.
Uh, it takes a certain individual to go into battle in one of the toughest realms of the entertainment industry. What personal attributes are required in order to do this type of work well?
In order to be a manager, are you trying? Are you asking from a standpoint of building an up and coming artist from the ground up, or from kind of jumping in with someone who's already successful and overseeing their career?
The former, from building artists from the ground up.
From the ground up. Okay. Persistence, definitely, because it's one of those things where you're gonna hear no a lot. There's so many people trying to do this, so many artists out there that are trying to succeed, and people see the internet as having leveled the playing field almost, and they say, everyone's got a fair shot. But the flip side of that is everyone's got a fair shot. So, you're competing with everyone out there. And it's hard to get people to listen to your songs. It's hard to get people to pay attention and watch your video and all that stuff. So you're going to get turned away a lot. And really, the industry is so different now. It used to be you would try to land with a label, and you would go into their artist development, and they would piece you together and help you change and grow, and then they'd push you out there. And those days are long gone, and I don't think they're coming back. And so now, if you even decide that going the label route is the right route, which I can tell you from personal experiences, in some cases is not. It's not the end all be all. It's not gonna. I've seen people. You think of getting a record contract as getting a paycheck, and I've seen people who got a record contract and are still in massive amounts of debts because it's basically a bank loan that you're giving up front, right? So you got to pay it back, and if they don't push you enough to pay it back, then you're kind of screwed. You're just left with with all this money that you owe and no way to make it back. So um, now you basically have to have a finished product, and you have to get things rolling on your own. Get the ball going and build that following steadily on your own. So you have to know a little bit about everything. So that would be the next characteristic I would say is, you need to be persistent, be okay with the fact that you're going to hear no sometimes, and just keep plugging away anyways. But you need to be diverse, and you need to be well researched. There's so many things. People are just like, they tend to think, in order for my artist to be popular, I'm going to record an album, I'm going to make a music video, and I'm going to make a Facebook page and a Twitter account, and magically everything else is just going to happen. And it definitely does not happen that way. Everybody has a Facebook page. My 50-something-year-old mom has a Facebook page for her knitting. She makes various things that she knits or whatever, and she's got a Facebook page that people can like her work and everything like that. So literally, like, everybody's got a Facebook page. It's not enough to just set that up and hope that people just find it. So your job as an artist manager is to actually drive traffic to those things that you have set up. And the way that you do that is to really know who your audience is and what they respond to. And that's why I emphasize, it's not enough to just say, yeah, our target market likes to watch TV and go to the movies and hang out with their friends and spend money on music. That's like, you just described everybody in the world. You need to know the age range. You need to know the brands that they like. You need to know what stores they hang out at or what other places they hang out at. You need to know the TV shows that they like to watch specifically, the genres of movies that they like to watch specifically, and you need to use that information to your advantage. So you need to try to focus on who does the licensing and stuff like that for those styles of shows. You need to reach out to those brands and make really connect the dots for them in terms of this is why my artist makes sense for your brand, and this is what we could do together. Those kinds of things are paramount to being able to actually get something rolling. And you have to have the mindset of I'm going to do this with no help. So many people are just like, oh, if I could just get if I could just get my song into the hands of so and so, then that's my golden ticket to making it in the industry. And if you look at success stories out there of people in the industry, you never see like, I was a nobody, but then I sent my song, I sent a link of my song on Twitter to this artist that I like or whatever, and now I'm famous. It doesn't happen like that. You really have to build that following. Um, you have to know your area, you have to know your audience, and you just have to have the mindset of being able to do it yourself and do it with no help, and not get discouraged easily. It's not. I know that's easier said than done, but and that was quite a long-winded answer, I'm aware, but I do hope that it kind of drove home some of the main characteristics there.
I mean, yeah, just to work your way up the pyramid, I mean, you have to manage every aspect with meticulous detail.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, and that's one of those other things where it really is important that you understand at least a little bit of all the different aspects of things that go into this line of work. So you need to understand, how booking agents work, and what motivates them to take in an artist, and how do publicists work, and what motivates a publicist to want to work with an artist, and what shapes their decision making when they're working for you. Like did they base their the magazines, TV shows, radio shows, the stuff that they reach out to, is that based on where you're touring, or is that based on who your target market is, or what? The more you understand about each of the individual team members and the way that they work, the better understanding you have of all that stuff. The better off you're going to be in terms of trying to turn that into a cohesive package to push your artist kind of out of the small realm that they tend to get trapped in. A lot of people kind of get stuck in this local thing and they don't know how to branch out of it. The other thing I would say is also, uh, don't skip the in between steps. You've got an artist who maybe is successful locally, that you feel has enough good material to really make that push to branch out. So a lot of people go, okay, I'm gonna like that's they have the possibility of being a star, so they see the next step of as being, um, they're going to be a star. And they forget that, you go local, you branch out into the immediate area, like if you're like I'm in Orlando. So, if I get a good following in Orlando and I know that my material is hitting in Orlando and connecting with audiences here, then chances are it'll probably make sense in other places as well. So you branch out gradually. I'd go to Tampa. I'd go to Daytona. I'd go to even down to Miami, and start working in Florida. In those regions. If it's still working, if you're starting to build a buzz in Florida, then hopefully you're picking up in some magazines, some blogs, and everything, and starting to get a little buzz going. Then you can take that regionally. So then you branch out into Georgia, Alabama, or up into the East Coast or whatever. Start working your way that way. So maybe you go Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee. Try to get to Nashville as your next goal. And then by then you're kind of creating a demand for yourself, and you're going in a logical way, that will hopefully lead you up the East Coast and then start spreading you out into the Midwest. And instead of just kind of just taking random making random dart throws at a board. You've got to have a plan in place to kind of grow things gradually, and that's just the touring example of that. It's got to work the same way for your online marketing, and for the publicity that you seek, the brand partnerships that you hope for. It's got to be kind of a logical progression, and it does take time. I always say in class that, if you're going from the ground up, it might take you 3 to 5 years realistically before you start making any significant income, and you might be even spending your own money up front. But that's just kind of part of the game, and you have to be willing to take those risks, to really build it up, from the ground up like that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Did you have any other questions?
Well, I know just dealing with several challenges, like dealing with the up and coming artists, specifically maintaining loyalty of their clients and meeting the challenges of increased competition. How, from other management conglomerates, how does a manager deal with that aspect?
So I'm not entirely sure. I follow you. The audio was kind of going in and out, so I caught pieces of that. Would you mind repeating it?
Yes, I know that a manager has to confront several different challenges, specifically once their up and coming artist starts to garner buzz and make that superstar stardom, maintaining the loyalty of their clients and meeting the challenges of an increased competition from other management conglomerates. How would a manager delve into that realm?
So you're saying kind of like once things start going well, like how do you hang on to your artist and not let them get swooped up by other companies
Yes.
and so okay. You know, hopefully that comes from a couple of things. When I manage an artist, or when I was an artist as well, and when we worked with our manager, um, first and foremost, there has to be you guys have to be on the same page in terms of I mean, if you're not friends already, you want to be able to become friends to a point where they understand your short-term goals, they understand your long-term goals. You guys are on the same page about your decision making. They're not gonna take like a um, an ad or something that represents you in a way that doesn't line up with what you feel your image is, because they're going to know you well enough to know that that doesn't make sense. Stuff like that. So it's those little personal details that forge that connection. And you look at the most successful instances of artists and their management, and really they whether or not they were friends when they started, their friendship and that understanding of being able to know exactly what you guys are trying to accomplish as a whole and being on the same page. You talk to those artists and they'll tell you that nobody understands them better. They don't, they think that no one understands them better than their manager. You look at like Scooter Braun and Justin Bieber, who are probably, Scooter Braun is one of the most successful managers out there now, and really one of the more revolutionary ones. And he considers Bieber to be family. And you can go back in time if you look back at the Beatles with Brian Epstein. The same thing there is at one point when they stopped touring, Brian Epstein um, essentially saw that as being his main role. And when they stopped touring because it got to be too much for them, he felt kind of useless. And he came to them and was like saying that he was essentially going to leave. He wasn't going to manage them anymore, but he was going to put them in good hands with somebody else, and he was going to step away. And they basically said no. They were like, it's either you or nobody. We don't want to work with anyone else. And so there's um, hopefully, this what you're talking about comes from years of working together. It comes from an inherent level of trust that comes from making solid decisions along the lines of what your artist is looking for and what you're hoping for their career. So that trust is something that's definitely built. There's a foundation there, and so hopefully, you know, hopefully you've got that established to a point where they wouldn't even consider it. They don't see some faceless corporation as being able to handle their personal needs the same way that you would be able to, or understand their personal vision the same way that you would be able to. So if someone else approached them, it would be like, they basically wouldn't trust them the same way that they trust you. And I think that comes from history and from doing good work, but really from just getting on the same page as your artist from the get go, and working together and being in the trenches together.
Okay. Yeah.
Cool. Did you have any other questions or anything?
No, not at this time.
Okay. Well, yeah. As always, you're welcome to email me, hit me up on iChat. I'm glad to answer any questions or provide any insights from my line of work that I can. And that's it for this week. So appreciate your time today, and I look forward to your work.
All right, thanks, Mr. Knight. Stellar session, very enjoyable, and thanks for sharing your vast knowledge and for arming us with the tools to embark on a rewarding career path.
Absolutely, that's what I'm here for. All right, man. Take care.
You too.